The elections were astonishingly contentious. These were just local elections which became a referendum on Mr. Erdogan himself. It was an election which was astonishingly polarizing because Mr. Erdogan himself has become a very, very polarizing figure. One of the other factors that really made this election exceptional were the allegations of fraud. That is not something that is normal for Turkey, at least not outside the troubled southeast of the country. And in one race in particular, in Ankara, where the opposition Republican People's Party ran quite a strong campaign, less than 1% separated the two parties. And the opposition party argued very insistently that entries from the ballot boxes had simply been entered in wrong, that the votes that were marked up the ballot boxes just were not reflected in the central election register. This, they said, was because of a deliberate effort by the AKP, the ruling party, just to make sure that Ankara, perhaps the single bellwether race of the whole election, did not fall into the opposition's hands. The AKP denies all such claims, but there's no doubt that these elections were judged by the results in big cities like Ankara and Istanbul, as well as the overall percentage of the vote. Turkey has been going through very highly charged political times since the end of last May, when the Gezi protests in central Istanbul began. That kicked off a whole political process, but one phase of which ended with last Sunday's vote. But now we see that this process is barely a third of the way through, and that Turkey is going perhaps all the way till next June with more elections. Given everything that Turkey has gone through in this electoral season so far, the tumble in the lira, also due to tapering, but largely also due to concerns about Turkey, fear that economic reform is being put off, it's not necessarily great news for the markets that we're going to go on for 15 or so more months of this. But there should be no doubt that Mr. Erdogan's base is even more riled up by what it sees as foreign conspiracies against Mr. Erdogan, unjust plots, and threats to what they see as his great accomplishments. So I see the Gezi protests of last year as something that highlighted the polarization of the country, both by their appearance and by the government's response, which many people described as authoritarian. But there is one other angle, which is we've seen in places like Ankara, people really come out and try and protect their votes and document their votes by taking photographs of ballot tallies, by going on the streets in the middle of the night, by trying to make sure that their votes are counted. There is a genuine activism in Turkey, but I'm not sure you could say it represents the majority of the people of the country. I'm not sure that the time for conciliation has arrived for Mr. Erdogan in his mind, and I'm not sure what that means for Turkey's hopes of social, political and economic cohesion as it goes ahead for the rest of this year. Daniel Dombey, Financial Times, Istanbul.